Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. So today what I'm going to be doing is giving you a full fish room update of my fish room. I have so many major things happening right now within my fish room. I have new fish coming in this week, so I've got to prepare for that. I'm moving fish from this tank to that tank, trying to play some fish Jenga. I have a fish swap that I'm preparing for, and by doing that, I'm getting rid of some fish. So I'll show you how I'm preparing for that. And I'm also updating a few of my tanks, and I'm kind of in mid-construction, if you want to say. So you guys should stick around and see everything that's going on, and you will not be, well, what is that? That is a dirty tank with no plants. What are you doing, Patty? Stick around and find out. Well, let's just jump right into it and show you this rack, and more specifically what's on top. This is one of my first major changes. As you can see, I have my two 10-gallon tanks now up here. That used to be down there, and I'll show you what's happening with those later. But to start off up here, first and foremost was this nature tank, this resurrection tank that I called an aquarium. I wanted to move it on the end here. Reason being is, you know, when I had it down on the other end, all I could see was this. Now I'm able to see all sides of it because the back is painted black. So I'm able to see all sides and see everything that's going on. And now what I find fascinating in here is there's been some change, not changes, but definitely things that I've found. Those little aquatic isopods that are in here, well, they have reproduced because there are little ones everywhere within here. You can see a few there. There's probably at least 30 or 40 of them I've seen crawling all around. There's really no way to completely count them, but they are everywhere in here, and it's absolutely fascinating watching this tank go. All those little seed shrimp and cyclops are everywhere within here too. Now, if you're not familiar with this, I will put the link to that video up above, but the idea of this was I was going to use these leaves eventually down the road in my aquariums by just taking some out and then replenishing them. But right now, I may still do that, but really, I'm finding this whole tank just amazing and everything that's going on here, and just watching and observing this. I may just keep this in here and just keep this as a tank and just let it be, and keep adding leaves to it as they need be, because you can see it has been breaking down if you go back and look to that original video. And this dwarf sage I have in here has really started to take off as well. If you remember, I only put a few little pieces in the very back, and it's been running up. But this tank, like I said, is just absolutely amazing, and I find it fascinating every single time I come up and just look at this tank. So that's that. But let's get over to these tanks. Now, these are those two 10-gallons. This one right here does not have any fish in yet, but it's ready to get some fish in. I should be getting the fish for this one today. I don't want to say what it is quite yet, but it's I'll just say it's going to be a pair of something that I'm going to be attempting to breed, and it should be pretty cool. So it is not dirted, only because of, well, what this fish can do potentially may not, well, I'm not going to say won't work in my dirted tanks. It may need a little pre-planning, but I want to watch and observe them a little bit before I put them in my dirted tanks. Now, this tank over here, this one has a few fish in it already. I have 3 small rainbow shiner fry in here. I started this tank up. I got these probably about 2 weeks ago. They are fry from, if you're familiar with White Cloud Dynasty, he breeds these rainbow shiners, and he's absolutely phenomenal at it. These are offspring from some of the ones that he has bred. My wife's cousin, Fins Up Aquatics. I'll put a little link up at the top in the description of the video. He has these guys, and he's been breeding them successfully. So he gave me a few of them to see how they would do at a small age, being able to transport them. And I'm going to be getting a few more of these today, potentially, to add to this little collection to grow out in. What I find very cool with these guys are how I feed them. What I do is, I got this idea actually from Tim from Fins Up, is it gives a little container, and I put some North Fin fish fry in here, and then I add some tank water, and what I do is I mix it up, and then into a little pipette, and just shoot it into the top for them to feed, and then they will eat that. I used to just put the dry fry food at the top of the surface of the water with my fish feeder. It eventually worked its way down, but this way it goes directly down and they can eat right away. I feed these guys like 3 times a day. They're really cool watching them grow, and they eat this food and their bellies turn like a pinkish color because, well, they're eating that pinkish food. Very cool. So I'll give more updates on this in the future. It's really cool. It's really fun watching these things grow. When I first got them, they pretty much stayed in the middle of the tank and didn't move. And within the last week, they've really been venturing out and doing more. I did add a few dead leaves in here that were soaked as well to kind of add some little microorganisms within the tank for them to eat on too, besides just this food that I feed them. Now, this wall is where we have some major changes happening, and let's talk a little bit about it. I know you're probably going to ask first and foremost, what's going on here? Now, let me explain. This tank, if you're not familiar, used to be heavily planted with Sagittaria that went all the way to the top. Well, the truth be told, I was starting to get bored with the tank. It was so thick you couldn't ever see the fish, and then plus all these fish. Speaking of that swap meet I'm talking about in the beginning, I'm going to be selling at that swap meet, and it was going to be almost near impossible to get all those fish out of there with all those plants. So I wanted to get rid of it anyway, so I just pulled them right away so this tank could settle for a while, because it's good. Let's see, it's like 2-3 weeks from now is when that swap meet is. So that way it's just going to make it easier for me to pull these out. But what am I going to do with this tank? Well, my plans are to do the first ever dirted aquarium with no plants. Just go all substrate, nothing else. No, I'm just kidding. Pulling your leg. No, I don't know what I want to do with it yet. One of my ideas is to put an Amazon sword in the back, because this is a taller tank that one big Amazon sword could grow really big in here. But then as well, it's going to take up a lot of room, but although it will take a little while to be able to grow that tall, I'm not 100% sure though, and I don't know what fish I want to put in here yet either. I have no absolute plans. I may see what I find at the swap meet and maybe just go from there, but I don't want to do too much with this tank until I really know what I want to do. So that's really the plan. Ooh, that one don't look so nice. I'm going to have to pull that one out of there. So yeah, that's what's going on with this tank. Now, this is that 20-gallon that used to have lots of little Regia, Pogostemma stellatus octopus in here, and that had my Taiwanese orange and green double sword guppies. Now, those guppies I'm getting rid of, and I want at that swap meet as well. And what I did is I put them down here in this little 6-gallon smart Higer aquarium. Not sure if you've seen this video yet. I've been waiting to be able to release the video till I got a link from Higer for it. So I put them in here temporarily because I'm going to sell them at that swap as well and move on from them. And it's just going to be easier to pull them from here. And that way, this tank is opened up for, well, let's go back down here. That's right. It's these guys. Those are those platinum Medaka rice fish that I got from Scott over at Raisin Fishes. They're getting big enough now where they're still smaller, but I can put them in their tank, and that's the tank I plan on putting them in. I'll do that this week sometime. Now, with this tank itself, my idea was I'm getting sick and tired of having to trim plants all the time. I know that's not a bad thing because it gives you plenty of plants to be able to play with, but I want to have a crypt tank for the most part. Now, I have a few other plants in here like this Anibius, which I don't know if it'll stay in here. It probably will. And then these, which are, I can't remember what they're called. That's moneywort maybe. It's been a while, but I put those in there. They don't really grow super fast, but all these crypts, my idea is, I know it looks kind of peaked right now because I did pull those plants out of here yesterday, so I have a tiny little bacteria bloom started, but I want all these crypts to grow tall and thick and just be one big wall of crypts. And I think that'll be really cool with the dark looking tank and dark plants, and then those platinum race fish swimming around the tops and throughout it. I think that'll be kind of cool looking. So that's the plan with that. Down here, if you want to look quick, these are just some of my little nano jars and such. I decided to use this shelf right now for them. and put a little light over them. I can add to that collection then if I want. And then when I get more tanks down the road, I've got a spot for them. This is my other 20 gallon. If you've seen that video, I will link it above. This is where I figured out what was giving these tanks such cloudy water, and it was that wood that I had. At least that's the idea behind it, and it has improved since I removed the wood from it. It does have a small little tint of haze to it yet, but it is 99% better than what it was. So to me, that wood was the issue. I did give this tank a trimming on its plants and trimmed it down. I do have a sponge filter in there temporarily yet. I do want to remove that and put an air stone in there. I'm waiting because I want to order some more of those Aquarium Co-op air stones, which like I have down back in this tank, which is hard to see. But yeah, I really like those air stones. So I want to get another one of those for it here before I remove that filter, and I let that filter kind of run a little bit more and circulate the water for the time being. Again, let's look at these tanks because I want to talk about this one in particular. So the reason why I did a lot of this moving as well now instead of waiting is I have more new fish coming in at the end of this coming week, and I need a place to quarantine and house them, and that's what that tank is going to come in for then. So I want to get those rice fish out of there and get this tank available to be able to put those fish in there and quarantine them. And then what I'm going to get in there, you're just going to have to find out, but I am ordering them from Aquahuna and they will be coming, so stay tuned for that. But there's two different species. One is going to go in this tank. Now, this is my swordtail tank with my koi swordtails. I'm getting rid of these guys. I'm going to be selling them at the swap. I have a breeding group here. It's like 1 male and 4 females. And then that guy back there I'm keeping. He's got like a deformed back fin, and he's just a little cool guy. He's dwarf stunted, so I'll keep him in a tank alone somewhere and let him grow out and live his life happy here in my fish room. But I'm going to sell these guys. I rearranged this tank a little bit. I opened up some of the plants in the middle and put that wood down in the center, so there's kind of a passageway through. I think I may throw some rocks in there yet, but you'll see what's going to go in here when I get those fish, and I'll explain a lot more then in a future video. Now, let's talk about this monstrosity. Bacteria bloom started in this one. This was completely and utterly clear. This is where I have my white cloud minnows and those red rilly shrimp. I have a sponge filter in here because I was battling with a lot of like mold in the water column, and I used that sponge filter to help clear it out, and it was crystal clear as of yesterday. But remember that crypt tank I was showing you just before? Well, this big old crypt in the back, that used to be in that tank. And it's probably the oldest. That's the first crypt I ever bought. It's like Tropica, I believe. I've moved it a few times, and well, I wasn't planning on taking it out. I was just taking some of the small runners out. And then, I don't know, greed got the best of me, and I pulled it out, and it just brought dirt up everywhere. It flooded this aquarium. I had to do a water change, find a little bit of sand to throw down in the back where it was. So I got a bacteria bloom started in this tank now. Because of that, it'll just take probably a week or so for that to settle down, and it should go away and get crystal clear again. Last tank let's talk about here as well. Let me get the light back on. Is this guy here is my 55 gallon. Now, when I say in the beginning that I am prepping for a swap meet, that means fish and plants. Now, all those plants I took out of those other 2 aquariums that I showed you before, I staged them all in here. Now, as you can tell as well, this tank is crystal clear as well. This is another one of those tanks that had that olive tree root wood in here that was clouding up my water. It's crystal clear since I've taken that wood out, so just to show that as well. And 2, like I said, I'm staging all these plants in here. So all this Ludwigi in here, I'm going to sell this all at the swap meet. My existing plants, I'm not, like my lily and some of this other stuff. But I can pull some of this dorsage out of here as well. But the thing of it is, I'm really loving the look of how thickly planted this is. The problem is, I plan on putting an axolotl in here. I know, I've been talking about it for months upon months. I swear I'm going to be doing it eventually. The daughter's really been pushing. She wanted to have like a certain color one. I think she wanted like a pink one, but now she's like, I don't care what color it is, I just want one. So that's another thing I'll be keeping an eye out at the swap meet, because you never know if I'll be coming home with an axolotl. But these guppy endlers have been reproducing in this tank, so I will be pulling a lot of these guys out of here as well. And those swordtails I showed you before, I probably will throw in here as well when I throw the fish in that tank that I'm getting new from Aquahuna later this week after they've been quarantined for a little bit. And this is just going to be the housing staging tank for my plants. What I used to do for swap meets is I used to throw them just in totes, like I have my totes down here. But the problem was they didn't get adequate light. They always wound up melting and getting mush. And by the time I took them out to get ready for the swaps, like a quarter of them were viable. So many other ones were just like not in the shape I'd want to sell plants in, let's just say that. So I never did. So I thought, what the heck? I ain't doing much with this tank right now. It's got good footprint to be able to really put a lot of plants in. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to stage in this tank and keep these plants healthy with lots of light, and make some people happy with some cool Ludwigia. Like, look at the colors of these plants. It's absolutely amazing. Well, I hope you enjoyed that update of my fish room. Like I said, I have a lot going on. I've been really busy down here, really trying to just think of how I want to finagle all of this. You know, the timing of bringing in these new fish, but yet not having the old ones gone yet has really been a challenge. Really thinking about how the best way to do it, not only for how I want to move these fish and where I want to put them, but I want to put these fish that I'm going to be getting rid of still in decent conditions while the time being that they're still here. So yeah, like I said, it's been like fish Jenga basically, and tank Jenga. Like that top rack with the Oscars, I had something else up there, then I moved it all around again the other day. Just always really thinking in my head how best to really keep my fish room so it's fun for me and still workable. But I also love bringing in new things. Like what you're seeing today with all these different changes in my fish room is how I keep interested in my tanks. Now, I don't get bored with my tanks, but I do sometimes. Like I get bored with the scapes and the fish that are in them sometimes, and I want new challenges. So like all crypt tank, and putting different fish in there. And then the other one where I don't know even what I'm doing yet. It's just dirt substrate in there right now. It's just things that I like to try to do to make things interesting again and kind of show you different things. And I will make some videos maybe on those individual things later down the road. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the update. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And I'm also offering memberships to the channel if you're interested. So hit that join button. And always remember to think outside the box, take a step back in the nature. I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.